Hey, KPFT is looking for you.
Hi, I'm Mel.
And I'm Ro.
We're from Shame on Me.
And you're listening to KPFT Houston.
It's a little scary on Earth tonight. In all the darkness, it's kind of hard to see the light. We need more people with compassionate and fewer commandos. Stand up for what's right on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. No more animal rodeos. Standing up for animals is a different kind of fight. When corporations keep the truth far from our sight, but the ones who see the truth can't ever let it go. The truth is alive on Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. It's time to live. It's time to grow. Vegan World Radio. Vegan World Radio. An animal-free fandango. Climate chaos, a doubting planetary plight. Temperatures reaching annual record heights. If the world ends tomorrow, I'll see you in the afterglow. The postmortem's live on Vegan World Radio. The rocket leaves right now. You've got a ticket for this flight. Did you think we'd let you leave alone? The stars are burning bright. Strap in tight, ready for takeoff. Ignition, here we go. It's Monday night and time for your Vegan World Radio. Let love be your diamond low.
I love that song so much.
I'm Skyjack Morgan. This is Vegan World Radio, in case you didn't hear the theme song. And I've got Dr. Crystal Heath with me, the veterinarian doctor who stands up for animals. Hi, Crystal.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm so great. And I am happy to be alive and vegan. I want to just invite everybody to go ahead and go to 90.1 KPFT if you're listening abroad, or go to kpft.org and leave a donation for Vegan World Radio. Make sure you let them know it's for Vegan World Radio. Pick yourself up a Vegan World Radio t-shirt. I wore a Vegan World Radio t-shirt once again to the weekend activism I'm involved in. I spoke up for animals, and I loved wearing my Vegan World Radio t-shirt. I got a lot of good comments about it.
That's awesome.
90.1 KPFT out of Houston. Of course, this week I was out there because it was World Lab Animals Week. And on the 26th, I went out and I protested for the Cargo Act, or did some demonstrations for the Cargo Act, which is the Cease Animal Research Grants Overseas Act. And I think it's just a great thing to wear to a demo as my Vegan World Radio t-shirt. People, it's great. You know, everyone sees what it is right far away. I like things that say vegan very large in print on my t-shirts.
Did anyone argue with you?
You know, I did get a little bit. It's difficult these days talking about animals because everyone wants to talk about, you know, the president. Just like people say, you start talking about animals and someone, because we're talking about wasting taxes on animals overseas. In the last 10 years, we spent something like $3 billion for, most famously, the one in Colombia is very famous because they were putting cocaine into monkeys and then operating on them, well, quote unquote, sacrificing them, and on these wooden tables. It just looked so barbaric until they finally got shut down. And, you know, you're talking about taxes, and of course, you're talking about politics. You know, the animals, the most vulnerable of any demographic, maybe. And, you know,
Well, isn't everybody angry that these corporations are taking our money, you know, to do these experiments that nobody approves of? Like
You
that
think
should
so?
make people angry, but did people want to talk about other things instead of animals? Or
Well,
what's the
people end up talking about all sorts of stuff. You've been out there doing outreach, but luckily, most people they will talk about, well, I don't like your poster, or I don't like, but then that's great because then they start talking to you and you go, what don't you like about it? And we ended up talking about, yeah, what's going on overseas, what's going on with the Cargo Act. And you know what? Troy Nels out of Houston is actually one of the co-sponsors of the bill. Texas is
nice?
22nd district. Our wonderful congressperson Troy Nels is one of the co-sponsors, along with Congressperson Dina over in Nevada. So out of the first district, I want to say, out of Nevada. So it's really great because we have a Texan Republican who's saying our tax dollars should not be going toward overseas, outside of our jurisdiction, outside of our we can't regulate it. We can't, we can't apply the Animal Welfare Act, all of these things. And it's a little bit easier because people know that. They know that, okay, it's a bipartisan bill. But at the same time, you start talking about taxes and politics and things go a little crazy.
Well, what went crazy? Like I need some specifics here. Like people
Uh,
say they don't like your sign. What didn't they like about the sign?
Well, first they say they don't like the sign because it says your tax dollars are one of the signs. One of the signs says, because it's all different signs, right? Most of the signs are made by PETA, so that's all different styles. But one said your tax dollars fund monkey torture overseas or something, overseas monkey torture, and it had a photo from one of these labs. It's a real photo. It's actually, was from an investigation. And someone's like, well, that's so generic. And I'm going, what do you mean it's generic? Tell me what you think about what's happening to the animals. You guys are going about this all wrong, standing in front of a library and doing this. And I'm like, well, how should we do it? Like, we're here because we're trying to get more sponsors from other Congress people. We want people to call their Congress members and write letters, write emails to pass the Cargo Act. It's not generic at all. Like, this is very laser focused campaign. And once I got his hackles down a little bit, he actually ended up really good. He took some lit and he said he would talk to his congressperson. And I hope that that's true. You never know with these things, but he got the QR code and he got the pamphlet, the leaflet.
Good.
A lot of the times when you're out there talking to people about animals, it's just trying to be in solidarity with the other people and the animals, and trying to raise awareness about this issue. And hopefully, if these Congress people ever do a town hall, maybe it'll come up at the town hall. I mean, that's the way democracy is supposed to work. This is what democracy looks like.
Yeah. So what's next for the Cargo Act?
What's next is hopefully it's being reintroduced right now. It's in the environmental, what is it? Who's it with right now? It's with the House Energy and Commerce Committee. That's right. And so it's still under consideration. And we're hopefully, if we get constituents to actually get involved, I'm hoping it's so close it could actually pass. The fact that there's so little, so few things these days that are bipartisan, and I feel like maybe the animals can bring a little balance to the force. You know what I mean?
Well,
Maybe.
unfortunately, like there are so many bills that go through this process, and if you're not aware of what the process is, they have to go through all of these committees in the House and
Yeah.
then the Senate, and then the president has to sign it. And it
First, the
very,
Congress has
very
to pass
few.
it, right? I mean, it's making its like Schoolhouse Rock. Like, I'm
It's
just
a
a bill.
long process.
It
But,
is.
I think it unites us all together to work for these things. And it's good to support those who are trying to pass legislation. So, more that your representatives hear from you about these things, the more likely they're going to pass. So, it's really important for everybody to contact their legislature, their representatives, their senators, and write letters.
Absolutely. I felt heartened because sometimes it just feels like the corporations are the ones in charge. JBS, who are the largest single contributor to the Donald Trump inauguration, $5 million they put down. JBS is one of the good things, though. They paved the way with that $5 million. They bought something really great. They're going to be in the NYSE. They'll be publicly traded. The SEC has approved their double listing on the Brazilian Stock Exchange and the NYSE, which means they'll have to report their earnings. So you and I can then go in and look. So, I mean, there's a little bit more transparency, I suppose. I'm not really stoked that they just put a $1.5 billion cash dividend out. They're saying it's pretty dodgy. You know, we
can see how much they're making in subsidies from us, and then we can complain about how much they're making in revenue, and like, hey, isn't that kind of unfair? Why are taxpayers having to subsidize this company that's also making profits and their stock price has done this or that?
They say they're going to put, like in Texas, up in Cactus, up in the Panhandle, they say they're going to put it, I think it's $100 million. It's something, it's $200 million split between Greeley, Colorado, and Cactus, Texas. And in Cactus, they have a cow processing facility, and they want to add a new ground beef room, which sounds ominous, right? Like, I don't know how big this room is or what 100 million buys you, but I mean, I guess now we'll be able to look more deeply into that because of the transparency that the SEC demands. I'm hoping anyway.
So they're building a new place or expanding an existing place?
Part of what they do is, for their political kind of wheel greasing, they'll promise to add to existing facilities or to open new facilities. In Cactus, there's already a facility and they want to make it bigger, and that should create more jobs. Like, these are the promises these companies write.
There's already not enough people to do this work, which is why we have to bring in people from other countries to do this work. We do not need them to create more jobs, and these are jobs that are very hard on people, that lead to high rates of repetitive stress injuries and psychological distress and addiction and drug abuse and domestic violence. Like, these are not the jobs that we need to create.
But local politicians, they get enamored of these things. They hear that a prison's coming to town and they want one because it'll create jobs. And we know what happens to towns that invite prisons in. You know, we know what happens there. There's been many documentaries made about that. Same thing with slaughterhouses. The workers suffer very similar fates as the people who work in prisons, funny enough. Lots, like you said, like alcohol abuse, a lot more spousal abuse, these types of things. It's not good for your community. But these corporations, they say, I'm going to drop $100 million in your town, up in Cactus, up in the Panhandle. I mean, there's not much up there, you know? So it's like, they like it. And it's one of those
ruin their
things.
Nice, peaceful, quiet community with this.
With more. Well, we'll see what happens. That's what I mean. Like, I don't trust anything they say. They make these promises that they're going to invest $200 million in American jobs. That's what they say, right? And it's going to be split between Greeley, Colorado, and Cactus, Texas. And meanwhile, they gave $1 million in the first Trump administration's inauguration. They gave $5 million this time in 2025. These are big. Like, the top single donor was JBS. And what I think is really weird is that between Smithfield, who controls 25% of American pork products and who owned by the Chinese, and JBS, who owns Pilgrim Pride, Swift, and a couple other brands, they control a giant percentage of the cow and other flesh. These are corporations controlled by foreign adversaries. Brazil, last time I checked, we don't even have an extradition treaty with Brazil. Like, Brazil is not the people who are supposed to be controlling these things, and that's who's doing it. And they're doing it by, it's bribery. I don't know. Like, I was hoping that something like this would actually, bribery was mentioned in the articles of impeachment that were introduced today by, what's his name? He's got a Tenado, I think his name is. It just happened today where the articles of impeachment were introduced. And bribery was mentioned. I was reading it. I didn't see anything about JBS, but dang, I'm not just pulling this out of my butt either. It's like a thing that's going on with JBS. There's lots of lawmakers who are really worried about this corruption and the fact that they are one of the leaders of deforestation of the Amazon, JBS, illegal deforestation. I don't know if they're the number one deforester, but they've gotten smacked a few times for illegal deforestation of the Amazon. And that's who's going to be investing in Cactus, Texas.
I definitely have to pay a visit to Cactus, Texas and see that place for myself.
It's funny. The last time I was in the Panhandle, it's not someplace I've gone very frequently. You kind of pass through it when you're driving through America. The last time I was in the Panhandle of Texas, I was driving the PETA abduction tour, which kind of ties this all together. The PETA abduction tour was a virtual reality experience. So my truck would pull up into a university and we would have the student, most of the time by permission, they give us permission to be there, usually. And students can come into the truck and get this virtual reality experience of being abducted by aliens. And at the end, it would say, like, this is what's happening on your campus to small and large animals. How does it feel, kind of thing. It was about vivisection or animal testing. And I went to 60 or 61 universities on this tour in 3 months. It was wild. I drove all around America, but I ended up close to home, and my tour mates, they went ahead of me. It was Thanksgiving, so I stayed for a couple more days with my family, and I started driving by myself across America. And there I am, coming through the panhandle of Texas in the middle of the night. I get through Amarillo, and I'm running out of gas. And I'm like, oh no, I'm running out of gas. What am I going to do? But they had given me this shell card. All they had was a shell card. So I was looking for shells, and I found this one shell station in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing out there, right? I pull up. All the credit card machines on all of the shell are broken on all of the gas pumps. And so I'm like, oh, what am I going to do, man? I'm starving, hungry. There's nothing around. I go in, and everything inside this station is written in Indian or whatever the language, Hindu, I think, Hindi, whatever the language, Hindi, right? Whatever. And everyone there is speaking Hindi, what I assume to be Hindi. And all of the snacks are not from Texas, right? It's like I stepped into an entirely different country. It was wild. None of the drinks, like they didn't have Red Bull and Coca-Cola. They had whatever other.
Oh, an exotic.
It was totally, and the music was different. And I get there and they're like, no, we don't take shell cards. We stopped being a shell station a long time ago. And I'm going, oh man, I'm out of gas. I'm starving. But I noticed they've got all of these baked goods. You know how like when you go to an Indian restaurant, they got like samosas? They had like all sorts of stuff. And I started asking, was any of it vegan? And they didn't really, they're like, yeah, this is no eggs, no dairy. I had to like ask everything. So I found this little vegan delight, and then I go back into my truck. I'm all alone. It's freezing cold, and I'm eating this warm bread thing from, but that's my panhandle of Texas story, passing through with a PETA truck that looked like a spaceship.
How did you end up getting gas? Like, did you end up just having to pay for it yourself?
I paid out of pocket, which sucked. But when I got back to Norfolk, because I was blazing a trail, I think I made it 3 or 4 days from California to Norfolk, Virginia. And it was just 10 or 12-hour drives every day. But yeah, I paid for that one by myself. And when I got there, in their defense, they just handed me cash, which was nice. But that was a wild journey. And the people who went off ahead of me, they didn't make it back. They they
passed away on the road.
No, they're alive.
They didn't make it back.
One of my tour mates I actually saw at the protest that I went to about the Cargo Act. He was there. And it was really great because we knew a lot about vivisection because of that tour. So it was great to be able to talk about it again with strangers. No, I think they got to Tennessee and there was a huge storm. They left their car. They said, PETA's going to come get it, fly them out. They're not going to make it back to Norfolk. So they didn't finish. And I was the only one who made it all the way back, did the whole United States turnaround,
Wow.
the California turnaround.
The rare animal rights activist with true grit,
yes,
who will get it done.
Yeah, Everybody else wasn't the last time I traveled across America on a truck for PETA by myself, but that's another story. But that's my panhandle of Texas story. There are the vegan Saint Michael, the vegan saint. No, Saint Michael is the patron saint of travelers. Saint Francis might have been the patron saint for vegans. Someone was looking out for me in the panhandle of Texas.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
So there's other legislation other than the Cargo Act that's on the books now. Like there's the EATS Act, which has been rebranded. So this is an act that's part of the Farm Bill, and it's been reintroduced as S1326. And the goal of this legislation basically is to stop any states or local governments from implementing laws that have national consequences. Say if you're a state that you want to not sell in your state meat from pigs whose moms were raised in gestation crates.
Yeah. So the will of the
This-
people of the state.
Yeah, this act would mean that you can't do that. This supersedes any state legislation that might be passed. If you want to find out more about that, you can go to aspca.org/EATS Act.
It sounds draconian. I hate the EATS Act. I love the name EATS Act. Like they are so much better at branding than we are, aren't they? Like the EATS Act. It sounds so, of course, we need to have the EATS Act, but it's actually really evil because it subverts the will of the people. And it's evil for other reasons. But like, just from as an American, I find it really quite disgusting that they're even thinking about passing a law like this at the federal level that subdues the states' rights.
That's what they do, though. The EATS Act stood for Ending Agricultural Oppression. ASPCA has this campaign, Defeat EATS. And so you can find out more by going to aspca.org/EATS Act and learn more about that there. We have been addressing what has been going on at Miami Seaquarium for quite some time. A bunch of veterinarians and staff reached out to us for help because they felt that they were being bullied and retaliated against for voicing concerns and trying to raise the standards of care for the animals. Miami Seaquarium has been under attack for a while. I found this piece in Bloomberg, I believe, and it's Dolphin Company's former chief executive officer, aided by, and to go into the history too, there's been numerous violations that the USDA has reported, and there's been concerns animals have passed away over the years too soon. Not like sure, animals die in these facilities and zoos of old age, but many people were concerned it was due to the poor water quality and other care issues and things like that. So,
I mean, they're basically in swimming pools. We've all seen this. Everyone who's seen Blackfish has seen what happens. I mean, I can't remember if Miami Seaquarium was in Blackfish, was it? I can't remember.
That was SeaWorld.
It was mostly SeaWorld.
And many of us are advocating for the animals to go away from Miami Seaquarium to SeaWorld because that would be a better alternative. As SeaWorld is an AZA accredited, but still none of these things. Whenever profit is the motive, it becomes problematic.
Well, it seems like it's kind of funny because when you hear about roadside zoos, people kind of know what that is. It's, we've seen this. We've seen the alligator farm. You drive through America and you see, come by and see our lion. And you go see the lion. It's just a sad cat in a cage. Miami Seaquarium is kind of like that. I think Miami Seaquarium, the home of Flipper, is maybe in the 60s, that flew. But I don't think it flies today. I think people have improved sensibilities. It's a roadside zoo for aquatic animals. That's what it is.
Yeah. It's interesting because, I don't want to really tell people, oh, it's such a bad, horrible place, because you go there, and I have a year annual pass to it because I went there and investigated and captured footage for quite some time. A lot of animal rights activists tell people, don't go to zoos, don't support them. I say go to zoos and film it and understand what the rules are and understand animal behavior and document when you see the animals exhibiting signs of poor welfare, and post it and explain to people what's going on. Because I think
questions
because people just hear from animal rights activists, oh, this place is horrifying. It's so sad. The animals look suffering. And if you go in there,
and
like
you don't know
a
what you're
naive
looking
person,
for.
you're like, this is wonderful. Like, look at all the flowers, and it's a nice sunny day. What a great way to spend a couple of hours, and you get to see these animals that you'd never see before. This is great. If you don't if you're not a veterinarian like me and you don't understand how to evaluate the welfare of animals, you might naively go in and say, like, I don't know what these animal rights activists are talking about. This seems great.
I don't know. I've been to
And
Miami Seaquarium, and that enclosure for the penguins is pretty sad, Crystal. It's pretty
we should
sad.
have asked the people who were there, like the attendees, what do you think of this enclosure? Because I bet you are an animal rights activist. You're already in that mindset.
Yeah, true.
But a normal person going in there is like, oh, look at the penguins. Like, look, they're swimming in the water.
I
They
don't
don't
know.
see. I
They're-
honestly, like,
I
think we
hope that's
take
not
for
true.
Yes, we absolutely take for granted how little people know. Because think of the way most people keep their dogs and cats, and they're so naive to the needs of their dogs and cats. They're
Fair
totally
enough.
fine locking them up in a small crate for 8 hours a day while they're at work. And they don't understand that that's problematic. And so they see these penguins in this nice enclosure that's better than what their dog at home has. And they think, oh, this is great.
I
Or
guess
their
you're right.
birds who they keep locked up in a small cage in their house. And they think, oh, these penguins have a dream life compared to my little bird. I
I
have
don't
locked
know
up.
that I having been to the one at SeaWorld and seeing how they treat their penguins, and then going to the one at Miami Seaquarium and seeing those penguins where they're basically in a one-room cell that's kept at 65. They're in like a standalone bungalow looking thing with windows for guests to come look at them, and that's pretty rough.
I don't know. It'd
Crystal,
be interesting
to
to
find out
poll
like
the attendees. Do another visit from us, I think, because
Yeah.
back to this Bloomberg article, the dolphin company's former chief executive officer, aided by men,
armed men.
took control of the bankrupt aquatic parks operators' Mexican headquarters in the middle of the night earlier this month. Restructuring advisor is battling for control of the company, alleged in court filings. Former CEO Eduardo Albor and about 20 armed men purporting to be state police officers arrived at the Dolphins company's Cancun headquarters at approximately 12:45 a.m. on April 12th and forcibly entered the property. Chief Restructuring Officer Robert Wagstraff said in a sworn statement dated Monday. Wagstraff's testimony was included in a request for the Delaware judge overseeing the Dolphin Company's bankruptcy case. They're filing for bankruptcy, and we've seen this coming for quite some time. It's been over a year and a half when somebody first reached out to me who worked there and was like, we're not getting paid. They haven't paid their labs and their suppliers. And so we're having to call around to other labs to do the blood work that we want to do. We, of course, did this investigation, and The Intercept reported on this and heard from whistleblowers and stuff. So you could, if you Google Miami Seaquarium, The Intercept, you'll see the article.
Now that you
There's a lot
say
of
all
articles.
that, Crystal, I'm starting to think you're right. Maybe the average dude that walks in, because I watched Tiger King, and people were lining up to go take pictures with the little tiger cubs and stuff, while famous Joe, or whatever his name was, what was his name? Sideshow Bob. I forget the guy's name.
Oh gosh, Joe Exotic. Yeah.
Joe Exotic, that's his name. Joe Exotic. He's got this Tiger King stuff going on. I feel like that's who this guy is, this Eduardo dude. He's Joe
Joe Exotic.
Exotic
Exactly. And here's,
of
you have to
dolphins.
understand, and I know I'm now belaboring this point far too long than I had scheduled for this show, but this guy is a very charismatic character. He's very inspiring to listen to. He's also quite unhinged. And I like the dream of any young girl is to one day get to like play with dolphins and like work in a theme park. Like I went to one of these Seaquarium places when I was a kid, and saw the dolphins jumping in the air and the orcas, and thought, oh, this is what I want to do. I want to train these animals. So now you have all these young women who dream of training dolphins, and you have this charismatic guy.
Yeah.
And it sets up a cult, basically. And
It's Joe Exotic and that other
It's-
weirdo on that show that he got busted for
Absolutely.
being a tiger cult. It's a dolphin cult. You're totally
This is a pattern we see with any sort of animal venture, whether it's groups in the animal rights movement, whether it's these zoo things, whether it's equestrian sports. I experienced this in equestrian sports too.
Or
You
TV
have
personalities who,
all these young
Mhm.
women who love animals and who are highly empathetic. And then you have these men who like, I'm going to get involved in that and provide this opportunity to interact with these animals to all of these young people. And you're like a hero to them. And
Yeah, it's
it
creepy.
sets up this really problematic dynamic.
The
He's
Dolphin
just
King.
like,
He needs what we need is a documentary about him that really explores this creepy world he's in. Maybe, it's too bad we don't get more of that because you could tell the women who work there, they love it. They
and
love
that
the
this is where
animals.
animal rights
Yeah.
activists miss it. They always say these animals are being tortured and abused by these psychopaths. And it's like, no, you're talking about 20-year-old women who love animals and think that this is amazing. And the dolphins, too,
True.
all been raised in captivity. So they're like dogs. You can't just release these dolphins into the wild. It'd be like releasing little dogs out
No,
into
it's
the
like a lot of
wild.
things. We need
No.
to stop breeding them, right? We need to
Yes.
stop.
We need
Yeah,
to stop this.
that's why when I hear about SeaWorld, I love this idea, and I know that I don't want to talk about this all night, but like SeaWorld, when another activist was saying that we should be pushing or encouraging them to switch to a sanctuary model,
Yeah.
a sanctuary model, where instead of having these breeding facilities where these animals are born into captivity, you're actually saving animals from the wild, and the ones that can go back, you send back. The ones that can't, you got to keep them around, and then people will come. Oh my gosh, we just saved a killer whale. I think that's fine, but like, don't breed killer whales,
Exactly.
I want to remind everybody this is Vegan World Radio on 90.1 Houston, Space City, Houston. Vegan World Radio. It is also available to stream at kpft.org. I always want to say 90.1 kpft.org. At kpft.org, and you can make a donation there and get a really cool t-shirt that I love, and I always am telling people, donate $100. It'll be a bad A t-shirt. I don't know if I'm a It's a really cool t-shirt, and you can wear it to your actions. You can wear it to school. You can wear it to
you can wear it with jeans.
You can wear it to funerals. You can wear it anywhere you want.
That's if you ever go clothes shopping at they always say if you
With
buy a
jeans.
jacket or whatever, they're like, you can wear it with jeans.
You definitely can wear it with jeans. That's true. I've worn it with jeans. I think it's a great conversation starter. It says 90.1 kpft.org on the back, and then it's got the big globe on the front. I think it's cool. It's eye-catching, and I love it. There's other stuff going on though. I don't want to. We gotta go fast though on this one. I want to talk about the FDA draft guidance. Can you start me off here?
So the whole Trump administration's thing has been, we need to deregulation. That's super important, right? And we need to
That's right. That's not just Trump though. That's like old school Republican values, like deregulation.
We need to streamline the government. FDA has just released their new draft guidance where the new rules for animal-free alternatives to animal-derived foods would require manufacturers to list the primary plant ingredients of animal-free products in their statement of identity. So, for example, changing a veggie burger to a wheat, pea, and soy plant-based burger.
Or patty.
This is
a wheat-based soy patty that you're not allowed to call. When is a cigar just a cigar? Is my question.
So this is just a departure from decades of regulatory practice, and this undermines consumer understanding and public health and fair market competition. But this is all about the animal-based protein industry is super scared about these alternatives, and they're doing everything they can to limit consumer confidence in animal-free foods. And there you go. This is just one more tactic.
They tried it before. They tried it with margarine. It didn't work. They tried to make margarine and there's even like pink margarine because they made it so you couldn't have the same color.
They said you couldn't make it the same color.
Yeah, couldn't make it the same color as butter, so you had to make it gray or pink or something else. Like, this is just an old playbook where, again, greasing the palms of politicians, they'll get it through. but I don't like it one bit. Like,
Yeah.
we're supposed to be deregulating. Take the dyes out of the Fruit Loops, right? But make sure you screw over anyone who's making a healthy plant-based alternative. And just, which is weird too, because like when on the animal-based chicken nuggets, they just call them chicken nuggets. And they've even gone so far as to say a wing isn't a wing. A chicken wing isn't the wing of a bird. It's a piece of a chicken that you dip into sauce.
Interesting. Yeah. And I famously, I think boneless
Right.
wings can still have bones in them.
Right.
know,
Yeah. And they could be part of the breast. It could be a breast because they don't,
Mhm.
it's just like, oh, what's a chicken finger, huh? I mean, all of these
Exactly.
things, they let the animal-based industry get away with literal murder, but all sorts of stuff. And yet the plant-based alternatives, no, you've got to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now the people who are tasked with keeping our food supply safe have been let go. They let go more than 140 leaders and staff members at the FDA's Center for Veterinary Medicine, which is very concerning.
This is the problem, Crystal. I think this ties together because, like, I don't think the food in America is getting safer. This is not just a vegan thing. It's worrying that they're doing away with any of the inspectors, so many veterinarians, so many scientists looking at bird flu. And a lot of these companies that are controlling large portions, sometimes supermajority portions of our food system, they're controlled by foreign governments. How are we allowing this at all?
Well, because it's all about corporations more than anything else. Those with power, those with money can influence the laws, and that's not fair. This is the problem with hierarchies. We protect our own. We protect those who are giving us money, protect those we identify with, those who are our friends. We don't protect the faceless, nameless ones out there. And this is just a problem. We can't have these hierarchies where some people are more important than others. Some corporations are more important than people, and some human beings are more important than other human beings, and human beings in general are more important than animals. Anytime you have these hierarchies, you have problems like this where people suffer, animals suffer. So
Yeah, I don't know how we get through if we're not going to hold these corporations accountable. And as long as corporations are people too, I don't know that that's ever going to be possible. I think they overturned the wrong decision. They should have overturned Citizens United. That's the one we need to get rid of. Maybe crazy things are going to happen.
Well, they did overturn a plan to limit salmonella levels in raw poultry recently too.
That was because of JVS, right? That was right after JVS gave the $1 million to. It was one of their chicken.
Was it?
Yeah, it was one of their
JVS
initiatives.
thing?
So,
The Agriculture Department will not require poultry companies to limit salmonella bacteria in the products, halting a Biden administration effort to prevent food poisoning from contaminated animal-based meat.
like, it's not safe to eat chicken right now in America. I don't know why people don't, like, someone should be ringing that bell. It's not safe. Salmonella regulation.
You
gone.
and your safetyism.
My
You
safety-
liberals and your safetyism.
It's just like, I want people to care about animals.
The world is a dangerous place, sir.
No. Yeah, you know what? That's totally true. And Adam Smith, in his Wealth of Nations, said that capitalism only works with an educated consumer base, but they're obfuscating the truth constantly. You think the average consumer knows that they're not washing the salmonella off the chickens anymore, or that they're finding 20% of the chickens that arrive at the slaughterhouse have flu-like symptoms? Like, 20% is a pretty big number when you're killing 10 billion chickens.
20% on one particular slaughter truck.
Okay, you're right. I'm
Foster
extrapolating a
Farms,
little bit. Okay,
based
fair
on
enough.
some FOIA documents that we got in recently.
Well, that's what FOIA's for. We had to go through a FOIA process
Yeah.
for that. The average person doesn't know that any chickens are arriving with flu-like symptoms at the slaughterhouses.
They're led to believe that they're all tested and safe.
With no regulators and no scientists and no vets to work there anymore.
So
Totally.
this salmonella plan aimed to reduce an estimated 125,000 salmonella infections from chicken and 43,000 from turkey each year, according to the USDA. Overall, salmonella causes 1.35 million infections a year, most through food, and about 420 deaths, according to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So just let the strong survive. 420 deaths, whatever. They weaken the gene pool, right?
Yeah.
Is that the Maha philosophy?
Let her rip. Let her rip. Isn't that what RFK Jr. said? Let bird flu rip.
Let salmonella rip.
Let salmonella rip. We'll all be immune to salmonella. That'll be incredible. We can do it. Why not? Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I am always really worried about this type of thing, but you always make fun
I know
of me that
you're
I'm too
always
worried.
so worried all the time.
Well, I'm worried that because it's not just going to affect. Well, first of all, I've never had
it's a
salmonella.
scary place on
but
earth tonight.
It's a scary place on earth tonight. Have you ever had salmonella?
Not that I'm aware of.
You would
but,
know.
yeah.
Trust me, you would know. Like, I've known people with salmonella, and it is a very, very disgusting thing that happens. You're on the toilet with a trash can in front of you for hours and hours and days. Yeah, I mean, I was in Las Vegas working when there was an outbreak, a salmonella outbreak. 12 people were in the hospital. It was a very big deal because if Las Vegas has a big outbreak like that, it could cost the city billions of dollars, and they don't want that stuff getting out. Norovirus and things like that. It's not a cruise ship, affects the whole city. And man, when people start dying of salmonella, that's a nasty way to go. And it kills.
Yeah.
It kills. I don't think we're getting immune.
420 people a year, apparently.
But it makes sick in the thousands. It's a few thousand get it, right? Like 1,500 or something. So I can't remember those numbers off the top of my head, but it's a lot. A lot of people get salmonella. And then noro, shigella, and the others. It's unsafe, and they're not making it safer. What was the other thing that they just did? In addition to the speed limits are becoming a thing of the past,
the
too.
slaughter speed limits are no longer a thing.
Slaughter speed limits. Just go as fast as you want.
And the FDA suspended its milk quality testing program, which is vital for detecting avian flu contamination in dairy products. The closure of the Moffitt Center Proficiency Testing Laboratory, a key facility for ensuring consistent and accurate testing across the nation's food safety laboratories, has further compromised the agency's ability to monitor the safety of the milk supply. This is why we have to do better with our messaging. And I just don't think fear is a powerful motivator. So that's why I'm not afraid.
I don't know. Cesar Chavez, when he did his workers' rights stuff, he used to have, God, I love the imagery. He had these posters of grapes but they were skulls, and they all formed like a bunch of grapes into the image of a skull. And it was going like, when you buy grapes in California, you're killing people, like you are buying death. And it was just right out there. People, man, he changed the world. They stopped spraying workers with DDT while they were in the fields, like he used fear. He used fear to change people, changed America.
Well, I think when you're buying this, you're buying death. It also just makes you angry. Like, what are these corporations doing? And why are they denying my ability to eat grapes that don't cause people to die? Like, I want to have a high protein meal that doesn't require animal killing and slaughterhouse workers doing this horrible task of killing animals for every day. I want to be able to have a healthy diet where I eat lots of protein, get hella swole. And I don't have to depend on killing animals to get that food. People should be angry.
Or run the risk of literally pooping myself to death, because that's what, like, maybe just selfishly you don't want to die that way, because it's a really nasty way. And I know it's, only 400 or 500 people die of salmonella, but there's so many others, noro and the rest. Like, there's a lot of ways to die with eating tainted meat.
Yeah, I want to get hella swole without having to have vomiting and diarrhea, and also have animals die because of that.
You know how that movie? Have you seen There Will Be Blood?
Yes.
Okay,
I
you
drink
saw
your
it.
milkshake.
I drink your milkshake. You did a great
Yeah.
Daniel Day-Lewis impersonation right there, Crystal. I had no idea you had you're like the
Oscar belongs to me.
you're like the Rich Little of veterinary medicine. So that book was a sequel by Upton Sinclair. It was called Oil by Upton Sinclair. It was the sequel to The Jungle. I feel like they should have made a movie like that about the jungle, because the stuff about oil, yeah, oil's bad, and oil, they've been digging it out of the earth. It doesn't really hit in that movie. If you had them all working in slaughterhouses, that would have been.
Let's do it. We've got a long road trip ahead of us.
Yeah.
Let's read from the jungle and try to make it into a movie. Got cameras. We've got, or, at least get the ball rolling, and then maybe somebody will do it for real.
We should download.
I'm all for like low budge films.
On the road trip, we'll listen to The Jungle. I haven't read it since high school, but I feel like it should be required reading.
Yeah.
Oh, you have it? That's amazing. We should totally read it then, because I've heard not much has changed since he wrote The Jungle.
A recent slaughterhouse I went to, I was like, haven't even read The Jungle, and I'm like, The Jungle. This is The Jungle. It's still happening.
I remember a part where it was like they were just smelling it, and they would find like glass in the meat coming across the border or something. It's hard for me to remember it because it's been so long, but I would love to read it again. I think I want to read The Jungle for sure. I'm sure that some of our listeners probably have read it, and they're probably going, "Oh, I want to reread it," because it's one of those ones I think are very revisitable.
Yeah. This is Trump administration. We'll just see how things emerge as the Trump administration rolls back these regulations, and it also makes it more difficult for us to sell animal-free protein.
And makes it harder for people to take that job. I think that because there's a loophole in the slavery clause in the 13th and 14th Amendments that for criminals, that all the people they're calling criminals now, they can just use as slave labor in these slaughterhouses. I think that's the next, and in all agricultural stuff, because they're making it harder to get those jobs. They're making it harder for people to do those jobs. No speed limits makes them more dangerous. I mean, who better to use for dangerous work?
Working in dairies and slaughter plants and agriculture facilities.
They use convicts or ex-cons.
And yeah, once you are not an inmate anymore and you get out, some of the only work that you have available to you is slaughterhouse
that type of work, right?
Farm work. This is why you'll commonly see in places where there's prisons, it's a agriculture community. They even have like inmate labor training, farm worker training that you'll see as you drive by these facilities. But a few people drive by and look, and I just encourage more people, go visit these farms, go on a road trip and take pictures, and drive by your nearest slaughterhouse, which might be 100 miles away from you, but it's an experience for sure.
It's probably not 100 miles away, but yeah, I mean, you probably won't have to drive that far to see a slaughterhouse, or you might live in a place with live poultry or something.
How many are in your area?
So I found out something this week. Planters peanuts. I think famously, a lot of vegans, they know that they'll buy some Planters peanuts. Anything that has salt on it or is seasoned at all, when you get Planters peanuts, check the label. There's gelatin in it. Gelatin.
Really? Know this.
Yes. There's gelatin in it. I found that out maybe 15 years ago when I went vegan. 20 years ago, someone got me some Planters. What the heck is gelatin doing in my peanuts, right? I actually emailed them. That was way back when. I emailed them and asked. They said, oh, it's used as like a caking agent to stick the salt on. It sticks it on better. And I'm going, okay, that's kind of weird, but all right. They did actually correspond. So I just found out that maybe I should have learned this. This is like one of those things. I just found out. Do you know who owns Planters? Your friends at Hormel.
Oh, yeah.
So
Hormel also
owns Jenny-O Turkey Store. Hormel is a almost subsidized company at this point, bailed out by taxpayer dollars all the time. But then I wondered also, well, do they own any rendering facilities? Of course they do. So what they're doing is they take their diseased animals and they render them, and that's the only. We looked it up earlier about like which products are we actually eating that are rendered.
It turns out it's called secondary something or other. And yes, eating rendered products.
We're eating rendered
Like
products.
gelatin.
Yeah. Gelatin in Planters peanuts. So sorry to ruin that for everybody. If you're vegan, you're still vegan. It's not a contest. We all make mistakes, but check those labels, folks, because you might have gelatin in your peanuts.
And like this is where purity
Hormel.
doesn't, like, the most important thing you can do is like get Planters to not use gelatin. Like, could
Yes.
we ask them to, like, hey,
But they're the only ones using gelatin, and now I know why.
now it makes
they're the
sense.
Only ones.
They
Yes.
need something, a place to put their gelatin, and there
They
you
need
go.
a place to put the gelatin. They're like, well, we sell everything but the moo on these cows. Well, we got to do something with all these bones. What are we going to do? Well, stick them in the peanuts. No one will notice.
This one slaughterhouse that I was at, I saw the truck, and they have this pipe that comes out and squirts out all of the entrails that I presume this truck is being filled up to go to the rendering plant to like turn all of the
What?
blood and entrails and stuff into stuff. And meanwhile, there's birds sitting overhead. This is an avian influenza area, like, basically. And the birds are like picking off the rendered stuff, and there's blood on the ground outside everywhere. The workers are coming out of the facility just covered in blood in their white uniforms. It's just a disgusting mess.
Yeah, I mean, drive around those. You don't need to go to the slaughterhouse for that. You'll see it all over the
Yeah.
place. Totally. Well, on that note,
Yeah.
on that reassuring note, last thing to reassure everybody, because we do have to say goodbye. Please write your congressperson to tell them about the Cargo Act, that you want them to support it, and that you don't want them to support the EATS Act.
Well, I don't
because-
know what we can and can't advise on public radio. I have to look at my notes. But if you want to learn more about those things, you can go to.
Yeah, if you want to
Google
learn
the
more about
Cargo
this,
Act.
yeah, sorry. Yeah, you if you're vegan and you care about these things, then find out more about them.
Yeah.
Find out more about them. That's a better way to put it. I can't tell you how to vote. We're not telling people to vote. Just talk to your congressperson. How about
Yeah.
that? Talk to your
Always,
congressperson.
about whatever. Like, I think
Contribute-
it's more important than you realize.
Yeah, contribute to the vitality of our democracy. All right, this is KPFT.org, KPFT 90.1 in Houston. Please see us in 2 weeks' time. We'll be back for Vegan World Radio every Monday, Vegan World Radio. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Skyjack Morgan. This is Crystal Heath. Find us online.
Yeah. Maybe we'll hear the Vegan World Radio song one more time.
One more time. Let's do it. I can hear it coming in. Let's hear it. Vegan World Radio. Let's go.
Sing
Vegan World Radio
together.
song.
This is the song of the summer. Turn this into TikTok videos. We want to see you line dance to it. How is this not the best theme song ever?
I love it.
I think it is.
Standing up for animals is a different kind of fight. When corporations keep the truth far from our sight, but the ones who see the truth can't ever let it